here.
Johnston here.
Rilla here.
Lorick here. Guzikowski here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
And Mayor Bukiewicz is traveling. He's not able to be here tonight. Approval of minutes.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of November 13th, 2018.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Anna, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Rilla, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Significant common council actions, Carrie.
Council approved the following. An ordinance to repeal and recreate section 1703170I1 of the municipal code to reduce the minimum parking lot setback from 30 feet to 10 feet from the right-of-way of all public streets in the LM1 Light Manufacturing District. And a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a tax incremental district number 16 city tenant agreement by and between the city of Oak Creek and Amazon.com.DEDC LLC. Alderman.
Thank you, Carrie. Alrighty. Let's move in old business 5A. Conditional use permit review request submitted by Dragon Radata M&M Towing for conditional use permit for towing, full service truck maintenance, and sales facility at outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment on a property at 9840 South 27th Street. Carrie?
So the proposal is for automobile and truck engine repair and body repair. This was held at the August 14th Plan Commission meeting that was pending a rezone of the property. You'll recall that the property was rezoned out of the overlay district, so it is in the M1 PUD district now. PUD is for South Branch Industrial Park. In your packet are additional staff comments that were related to the new submission of materials that were further explaining the proposal for the property. And there is a suggested motion that if the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal, that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit for automobile and truck engine and body repair, outdoor storage of vehicles and outdoor display of vehicles for sale, and semi-truck trailer parking on the property at 9840 South 27th Street after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Commission's review at the next meeting, which is December 11th. And I will now defer to the applicant and his attorney to provide additional details.
Joe Sincata, attorney for M&M Truck Center. And thank you for letting me speak. And my office is in Milwaukee at 400 East Wisconsin Avenue. Just briefly, I see the process that has been laid out by the staff involves a kind of a initial review, apparently tonight, of the conditional use permit request, and then some conditions, more specific conditions, I guess, discussed, generated, and then presented to you guys at another meeting, is what I'm gathering. And that should be fine. I did want to just provide a couple of comments to clarify and confirm some things. The overlay district is no longer applicable. In the packet, and I'm not used to the packet that you guys get, it had reprinted essentially the discussion that you guys all got in July and August. And if you read that and you had forgotten this one, all of a sudden, well, now does the overlay apply? Well, it doesn't apply, and I think we've confirmed that with staff. But that was in there. I just wanted to make sure that that was the case. The M1 is what applies now. I did provide in my materials just some examples of other permitted uses in the M1 district, just so you have a flavor of what is permitted, and which is helpful sometimes when you're kind of figuring out whether a particular use is appropriate. For instance, equipment rental, farm machinery and equipment manufacturing, lawn and garden equipment manufacturing and storage, machinery equipment sales and service. Those are all permitted in the M1. And then a little clarifier that's pertinent to that. What's also permitted is truck sales and service. That's permitted. So that would be certainly part of the operation. The conditional use that we see most applicable would be the auto body repair conditional use. And I think with it you'll have some presence of trucks on site and some other materials. So that's why I think staff has raised those other conditional use subjects. But the permitted use is the sales, so I don't think we actually need a conditional use to do that. I think we need a conditional use to allow for the body and engine repair. And so that's fine. And so that's being recommended for approval. We agree with that, subject to the conditions. So we'll go forward and plan on working with staff on those conditions and working that out. I did want to give a quick summary, a response to some questions that were raised by staff in the packet, and these are at page 2 of 5 of the packet. The first one involves, it says it mentions a dispatch office. I think that was the use of the term dispatch may not be precise. It's not a dispatch operation. It's an office that would manage incoming customers and outgoing customers for sales and repair. So it's an office facility. It's not a dispatch office like you would think would be involved with a towing operation or some kind of truck terminal. So that's not an issue, maybe just a bad choice of words. The second comment by staff was that the narrative we provided stated that no equipment or vehicles will be allowed that are not registered, but then states that vehicles for sale will be not be registered. I think there's a disconnect there. Obviously, vehicles that are being sold that are new are not registered. I mean, that's standard stuff. So for the sales part, there would be vehicles that would be for sale, however many number is acceptable and agreed to. But I wouldn't think those would be registered. But customer vehicles that are being worked on for repair, of course, those would be registered. And the reason for the registration requirement is just so you don't have things laying around there. Older vehicles that are not operational, that aren't moving through the process of coming in and moving out. And I think just on that point, I think that's a primary appropriate concern, is that we're getting commerce, we're getting business coming in and it's moving out. There's not long-term stuff happening where trucks are just sitting there. I think that's a concern that's being addressed. And so that's why the registration issue is a way to make sure we only have operational vehicles on site. Of course, if we're selling a new vehicle, it's not going to be registered. The operations, the suggestion is they're pretty long or they're pretty extensive, but our sense is they're pretty consistent with other businesses on 27th. And the final issue was number 4 for tenants, future tenants. Just a quick on that, we had in the previous submissions, if you happen to notice, there was a discussion of a classic car storage tenant that was maybe going to use the facility. That has gone elsewhere, so that's not happening right now. Going forward, it'll just be M&M Truck Center running the site. There are no tenants right now lined up. But there is space there, and so if we do have tenants, we'll come back as requested, if needed, to get a conditional use or whatever permit they need. They'll be the primary, but we would support that. So right now, we don't have to worry about tenants. Those are my 4 points. I had some discussion of Act 67 and the law, but that may get a little deep, and so I'll see if there's any further comments. We're available for that. But I will probably talk about those issues more with staff when we can prior to the next meeting. But I'll sit back down unless you have any immediate questions right now. All right, thank you.
Care to add?
I do have a question. I'm not sure if it's pertaining to the applicant or to you. How about, how is this facilities disposing of any oil or any contaminated material that are being used on this facility?
My name is Dragan Radeta. I own the property. We have a agreement with the local company that we purchase the oil from, and they usually take a waste oil to their facility. So there's not going to be any oil laying around, except I believe we mentioned roughly around 1,000 gallons of fresh and any waste oil on a site inside the building.
So there would not be any runoff or anything like that around the facility?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the company that we use is Lubtech.
Lubtech?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, I have a question for the applicant. I'm sorry. It's dealing with screening on the south side of your property. What do you plan on using for screening or protecting that south property line?
Well, we can either, we proposed actually to screen south and west side of the property as well,
Okay.
Next to the 27th Street. So we can put either, plastic board-and-board fence attached to existing fence. So it would be probably 6 feet high kind of like to attach to existing fence there.
Thank you.
Else?
I have questions in regards to the staff's concerns. I wasn't clear which items were being addressed, because I know there are several items that we have here, but I wasn't linking the comments with the issues. So, for example, one item, it's referring to outdoor storage, but it sounds like outdoor storage is prohibited in this area. Is that correct, Carrie?
So outdoor storage was one of those clarification items between the old staff reports and what was presented for tonight. There will be no outdoor storage on the property. And the only thing that will be stored and quote unquote stored outside will be the trailers and the tractors that are going to be worked on that are part of active service for their customers. There's an outdoor display area for the sale of, I think it's 5 or 6 vehicles that is behind the fence and on that corner of the property on the west. That's it. And then a trash enclosure. But there's no other outdoor storage that's been requested or allowed. It's just the tractor trailers that are being worked on actively.
Now, I know in the information we received, it said that some items can be worked on 60 days or greater. Is that correct? So, isn't that considered storage? If it's there?
If they're actively being worked on, then no. If they're going to be on site for longer than we can talk about a period of time, that would become outdoor storage. But again, this is more of a truck parking temporary storage kind of situation. These vehicles are currently going to be worked upon and then just await customer pickup. That's the only time frame that we're talking about for those vehicles to be on the site.
Thank you. And then also for the applicant, can you just provide a little more information on the services that will be provided at this location?
Well, it would be truck repair maintenance facility. Same thing that Freightliner does, Truck Country does. Same thing that Trudell Trailer next door does. Canward. So pretty much just the maintenance of heavy equipment, trucks and trailers. Oil changes, brake changes. I mean, just kind of like any regular maintenance.
But it sounds like there are also sales on the ground.
That is correct, yes.
So can you help me understand the link between the repairs and the sales? Because it sounds like they're in different locations. Is that correct?
No, they're at the same location. They're just in a separate parking area or property area. But again, it's the same thing that all of these other companies that I just mentioned, they're doing the same thing. They're doing maintenance and sales, So Freightliner, Canward, Peterbilt, they all have a, Trudell Trailer. They all have a sales and maintenance options at the site. So.
And there was one other item in regards to parking. So, Carrie, is it correct that there should be a minimum of 60 to 68 parking stalls? Is that being met?
There's probably actually more parking stalls than will honestly be used by employees of the facility. The reason that that comment is there about how many parking stalls are required is because of the nature of the building and the warehouse aspect. We've been told that there are going to be maybe 20 to 30 employees there at any one time, so this would actually address that issue, plus have a little bit more if they were to lease out the tenant space. I don't think staff has any concern about the number of parking stalls that are provided.
Thank you.
And if you look at the screen right now and highlighted in red, those are the vehicle display areas for the trailers that will be, the trucks that will be for sale.
So I have just a few more questions for you. So I'm glad you gave the picture of a Kenworth, because I was trying to grasp what was going on here. So that helps me out a little bit, knowing what you're trying to do here. Given the report, it seems to be kind of all over, like we're not really sure what we were going for. So, but that helps kind of zero it in for myself. I thought I read in the report something about being sprinklered. Has that been addressed with the fire department building?
Well, currently, there is no water feeding to the property.
It's not sprinklered?
It's not sprinkled. There's no water utility to the property itself, you know. So
that's right.
there's well and holding tank on the property. So realistically, right now, at this moment, you cannot sprinkler it. However, city is working to put a lateral down on that street, and actually we have a pre-construction meeting on Thursday, I believe.
Saw that.
Yeah,
the
so
notes in
so
here.
I'll be there in the meeting as well. And, you know, obviously, if you need to do whatever we need to do, you know, if we need to sprinkler it, I mean, you know, I'll rather sprinkler it and spend, you know, $100,000 rather than, you know, than have a building vacant for another, you know, 5-10 years, you know.
Right.
I'm, you know, I guess I'm open for options, you know. If we need a sprinkler, we'll work with it.
I'd like to hear it from the chief there.
Mike Kresick, Fire Department. I think that was a pretty good summary of the situation at that particular structure. So what happens is, as an occupancy takes hold in that building, depending on the type of occupancy, the nature of the work, that through code then dictates the need for a sprinkler or some sort of suppression system in the building. Now, certainly there are some challenges leading up to that structure, and we are aware that the applicant is working towards solving those. I believe there was a previous meeting several months ago where the need for detection or suppression systems based on the use and the occupancy type were a requirement in that structure. And I believe at that time there was no hesitation or disagreement with that, and it appears that we're still progressing along. Being that the water situation and that we don't have formal plans for the structure yet, you know, it's a little tough to say the exact specifics of the type of system, but it's safe to say it's being worked in that direction.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Are you still going to store 1,000 gallons of oil inside?
Yes, up to 1,000 gallons
Okay.
inside.
It's oil that they're going to use on new vehicles, or
Right, I understand. I just recall
They'll-
that
they'll
you
have a tank in
mentioned
there.
it, and I just wonder if we're still going to do that. Okay.
Alrighty. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Any other questions, comments? Then a motion.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission recommends that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit for automotive and truck engine and body repair, outdoor storage of vehicles and outdoor display of vehicles for sale, and semi-truck trailer parking on the property at 9840 South 27th Street after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the commission review at the next meeting, December 11th, 2018.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Lorick, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Alrighty. Thank you. Moving on to new business. 6A, presentation, Abendschein Master Plan. No action here. Pete, is this you?
Yep, that's me. I'll give you a little background before I turn over the presentation to our consultant, Sarah McDonald. Back in 2017, the Common Council approved a strategic plan, you may recall, and one of the things in that plan that was identified was the need to update the master plan for Abendschein Park. And so in May of 2018, Common Council approved a contract hiring a consultant. It turned out to be Stantec, and they are the ones that have been working on our master plan over the course of the summer. So Sarah will be presenting you with the summary of how we got to where we are. I included in your packet are maps showing what the plans look like. But just to give you a little background on how we got there, it wasn't just us coming up with great ideas and putting it on paper. We did involve city residents as much as we possibly could throughout the process. Keep in mind, no action is required on this. This is informational purposes only. This is going to be presented to the Common Council next week for review and adoption. And when that, assuming everything goes smoothly, once it's adopted, I will be working with the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Commission in looking at how we can implement this master plan and improve one of our community parks in the city. And with that said, I will turn it over to Sarah to present the master plan for Avonshine Park.
Thank you. Can you all hear me okay? All right, great. Pleasure to be here with you this evening. I would like to quickly walk through the process, the timeline for which we went through the project, the site inventory and analysis, which really drove a lot of the concept designs that we moved forward with, public engagement, and then we'll go into the final master plan and some of its main components. So this obviously was a partnership between the City of Oak Creek, our firm Stantec, and the Kabbalah Washatko architects who actually prepared some of the architectural renderings for the beer garden that we'll talk about in a little bit. So many of you may be familiar, we had a website set up for the course duration of the project, which we posted all of our documents and allowed people to engage with us through various aspects of the project. So avonshinepark.com, it's still live if you want to look back on any of the additional information that I'll kind of glaze over today. The process was a 5-phase process. We started with background, context, and vision, where we start to establish what's been done in the past to help us understand where we need to move forward. We did a detailed analysis and programming assessment to understand what the specific amenities would be in the park, and we worked with the public in this aspect for public engagement. The third phase is the draft of updated master plans. We reviewed 3 different concept alternatives, and then we refined that master plan into one design, and then now we're moving into the report and documentation of the entire process. So we started in May. We had some public engagement sessions in May through July. We went through and did a public meeting and then a public information meeting this last month. So our site and inventory analysis looked at both regional and site scale contexts. We looked at the program, so different parks and adjacent trails to try to optimize and connect the park system as a whole. We looked at infrastructure, so things like roads, trails, water hookups and things of that nature, electrical lines, railways, and then ecology, so what's the creek, the floodplain, environmental corridors, things of that nature to try to understand everything as a whole. Then we zoom down in the site scale and we really look at what your existing amenities were, how they played off of one another, proximities and connections. We look at infrastructure again, how the water, storm sewer, sanitary sewer getting to the site, this all plays into how the design is configured later. Ecology, again, on the site scale, one of the most important things to note here is that the site is pretty constrained based on the creek, the floodplain, the floodway. We can't build anything within those regions, so it really limits what we can do within the park. It's a great asset, but those are some things that we had to tackle with as we move forward through design. Public engagement was really fun. We got to do a couple of pop-up events. One was at Dog Days here in Drexeltown Square, where we brought some puppies to attract people to give us their feedback on what they thought Avonshine Park could be. We did a scholastic reading event here at City Hall where we parked a booth outside and enticed kids to come and render and draw what they thought the park should be like. And then we did another pop-up booth outside on a great summer day in your Drexeltown Square for the splash pad, again, engaging residents on what they like to see within the park. We also did a survey, I should mention, that there's no slide for that, where we engage residents in that matter. And we also did a public open house where we previewed the 3 different concept alternatives to get buy-in and feedback that way. So the 3 concepts, in general, I won't get into any detail about these, but the overarching themes were sports, a concept emphasizing team sports and recreation, lifestyle, a concept rooted in personal fitness and community, and then health, a restorative concept focusing on health, mind, body, and environment. Many of the features overlapped in each of these categories, but there was definitely a strong sense of sport in the sports and lifestyle and health in the other 2. These are just some of the engagement methods we utilized during our public open house to get feedback. People voted through Dotmocracy to let us know what character images and features they wanted to see and amenities within the park. And some of the results here of the public meeting where the sports concept was overwhelming, and these are some of the features that they wanted to see within the park. So the final master plan, the reason why we're here today to discuss the outcome. There's also a board up here. I will go through each of these amenities in a little bit more detail so you know where I'm pointing and what that might look like in that particular amenity. So one of the things that everyone mentioned was the lack of definitive entrance, and so we wanted to work on enhancing these, whether it be through some sort of folly feature, some sort of sculptural element that kind of draws your eye and identifies that this is a park entrance, along with some entry signage. The west entrance in particular is a little bit challenging, so we thought widening that and making it safer for events and activities was rather important. And then the east side as well, having some sort of defined sense of entry into the park, and then also the Forest Hill entry to the south. I'm going to focus in on the beer garden, patio lounge, splash pad, playground, and volleyball complex, which is circled here on the map. So if we zoom in, you can see that we've expanded the parking lot a bit to accommodate both events related to baseball, but also any visitors that would be coming for the beer garden, splash pad, and playground. We also have these vertical element features was highly rated on there, so making something a little bit more engaging and exciting, aquatic-like. And then an ADA accessible playground in this area was also highly desired by residents. Over to the right, we have an agility course for teens and adults. So it's an element to work out, kind of American Ninja Warrior, if you will. A volleyball court also, and the lounge area would have things like table tennis or Battleship, Connect 4, some games that can be engaged with while you're there enjoying a beverage or there for an event. These next series of drawings are from the Kabbalah Washatko, who sort of imagined loosely a concept how this pavilion space might lay out. So we have some staging area for food trucks or beer carts and vendors. This space could be used, for specific events. It could be rented out. We would have some storage, restroom facilities, changing room that would accompany and would be necessary for the splash pad and playground area, an open patio with a fireplace to kind of extend the seasonality of that amenity. So there's a lot of versatility within this even early preliminary drawing. They also imagined what that space might look like in 3 dimensions. So as you approach, this is kind of what you would see as you come in. Maybe there's some German banners that kind of have a flavor, could be branded with Oak Creek's symbols, concessions for any events that would happen. This is kind of another look to see where the food carts would be positioned under cover and what that space might look like with some picnic tables. It could be lit from beneath, some more of these rope lightings. Throughout here. The next area is the baseball diamond, honestly highly used, so we're thinking that it would need to be updated, perhaps with some synthetic fields and lights to make it that much better. Disc golf was another amenity that was really liked by many of the residents, so enhancing that. This design only really calls for 2 of the holes to be displaced or relocated, so we thought that was pretty good. We would like to add some benches, trash receptacles, and improve the amenity, and then also make it a unique setting, so set it within a prairie-like setting, which also can assist in reducing maintenance throughout the park, create habitat, and a nice appearance for all park visitors. We want to talk about updating the skate and bike plaza, so it's kind of past its useful life, and so how we might be able to reimagine that site, make it more exciting, attract more people. We understand it gets used heavily, so that amenity remaining was really important. We have an all-age play area here, which is kind of a circular quarter-mile track containing a playground as well as some workout equipment that faces inward so that you can exercise while you're supervising your children. So it's a all-ages play and activity kind of hub there. These are some images about what that skate park might look like, more of like a plaza space that has different amenities within it, or it could be simply a similar feature to what you have there now above ground skate park. The existing cricket pitch is also another amenity that's heavily used, and we thought simply reorienting it north-south would allow for more flexible use for other sports activities. So really kind of, again, changing the dynamic and allowing for soccer and lacrosse and things also to be played on that open space, extending the use. Here are some images of what that all ages play might look like with the equipment, the track, and the playground, which could be themed. One of the great assets I find is the creek itself, and so enhancing some of those areas by restoring to prairie, creating some pollinator habitat. So there's sort of circles sort of all over the place, but these are some of the areas, images that character of what those areas could look like with the addition of looping trails throughout the park as well. And then the south portion of the site largely needs to remain there for flood mitigation, but enhancing it as a trailhead by providing some parking and a trail connection to the rest of the park. Modest enhancements with an entry sign we thought would be very valuable, just adding that extra space into the park for park users. Forested area, so this is a remnant forest that's really well utilized, and I understand there's some education programming going in there, so furthering that initiative and making sure that that's there and preserved and maintained for visitors. Creek restoration, we talked about this a little bit. There's some erosion in areas that needs to be addressed, in particular near the baseball diamond, so making sure that those are really kind of speaking for themselves for the long run. With that, I will open up to any questions. I'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. East of the park, we right now have a skateboard bike type thing. Are we tying that in with this?
That is actually
That-
part of the park, as I understand it, if we're talking about the same area.
Yeah,
This
the
is
skate park that
right
it currently
here.
exists, is that the part that you're asking about?
Right.
Yeah, the plan here is to enhance it and actually replace it and maybe make it larger, a little bit different. She showed a picture of these concrete ramps, which is different than what we have right now, which are the wood ones.
Okay.
So we're thinking about reimagining how the skate park would look. Would it necessarily be just wood ramps, or can we do something like what you see on the screen? You have some green space, you have these, places to skate in between the ramps, and try to figure out a way that we can make it more durable. And I believe the mayor one time talked about it, maybe not at Plan Commission level, but at the Parks Commission level, working with the trades and using, concrete instead of wood, and then having something that would be more long lasting. And that's the example that we see in those pictures there. But the idea would be to keep it, and if anything, try to enhance it, make it larger if possible. And so that's the intent of the master plan, is to keep that amenity in the park. And one of the things that Sarah didn't go into, just to make one last point, is we are working on identifying phases, because we realize we don't have the money just to have a turnkey park like we did with Lake Vista. So right now, I'm working with Sarah to identify what pieces, there's, creek restoration. Well, even though we may see it as a staff level a very viable thing, no one in the city is going to say, oh, well, look at that really restored creek bed. No one's going to see that, but they'll definitely see the skate park rebuilt or the beer garden pavilion. And so we're going to package up potential phases, and then at the Parks Recreation